In 2018, March got even madder than usual. It all started with a 16 seed vanquishing a 1 for the first time ever. And the country's unanimous top team wasn't the only Titan to tumble. Buffalo blew out Arizona and presumptive number 1 NBA draft pick DeAndre Ayton. Hey, at least 3 other lottery picks kept him company. We saw a 22-point comeback in 11 minutes. We saw the last team in the tourney upset a trendy title pick, while last year's champion stumbled in round 2. 3 squads seeded 9 or higher made the Elite 8, partially because none of the favorites in the South survived opening weekend. Of course, no one captured our hearts like Loyola's 98-year-old nun. But March Madness overcame even Sister Jean's line to the divine when the Ramblers broke her bracket by getting to the Final Four. Still, despite this year's patina of parity, it came down to 2 colossal conference champions, the Big Ten's Big Blue and the pre-tourney odds-on favorite, just a couple years removed from climbing this very same mountain. And just like the 5 games that came before, Nova won handily. There may have been a different hero this time, but all of a sudden, March wasn't so mad anymore.
Welcome to SI Now. I'm Robin Lundberg here with Madeline Burke and Jason Capel. And though parity was a theme of this NCAA tournament, one team dominated on its way to a national championship.
Yes, Villanova won its 2nd title in the last 3 seasons with a 79-62 win over Michigan. And they did it with Jalen Brunson putting up one of his lowest point total of the season. Now, Nova is the first team since North Carolina in 2009 to win each tournament game by 10 points or more, winning this one by 17. You surprised they were able to maintain without the usual contribution from their best player?
Yes and no. Yes, because Jalen Brunson is the National Player of the Year, and I think he's going to sweep the Player of the Year awards. But what we love about this Villanova team, what made them so good, the best team in the country from start to finish, in my opinion, they have so many weapons, so many players that can step up in big moments. And Donte DiVincenzo was a guy that came off the bench, ready to go. Brunson got him started early, but Bridges hadn't got going. You look at Spellman, he couldn't buy a shot. They needed someone to come in and take charge. And the 6th man of the year in the Big East came in and made himself a legend on the biggest college stage.
Yeah, he looked like a star right when he came into that
game. He became
game.
one.
Came in hot, yeah.
Definitely became a star last night, did Donte DiVincenzo. And here's what he and some of his teammates had to say.
We have so many talented dudes that could just get going. We don't know who's going to have a good night. And tonight it was Donte. I mean, that's no surprise to us. I mean, Donte had 30 early this year.
He's a killer like that, man. He just came out and showed it, man. And he just kind of put us on his back.
When did you know you had it tonight?
That's a good question. I don't know. The second half, I missed my first couple shots, and Jalen told me, he said, "Don't let up. Just keep going. Just keep being aggressive." And from there, I just took off.
Fitting to see that tied around his hat. Nothing but net
like that
for
look.
DiVincenzo
I like that look, yeah.
last night.
Absolutely.
Now, and Wolverines coach John Beilein said there was no defense for what he was doing. It was just those kind of shots he was making. What led him to light up the Wolverines so much?
Well, you have to think the scouting report was probably based on keeping Brunson out of the lane, keeping the defense out of rotation, not allowing Mikal Bridges to get out in transition, straight line drives to the hoop. You have the 6th man come off the bench, and you're taking away the 3-point shot. Michigan had only allowed 18 3-pointers coming into that contest. DiVincenzo came in, and he attacked. He got downhill. He softened the defense, and that allowed him now to step out to the 3-point line and maintain his confidence. It was just a one-on-one player making plays in the big moment. And the thing you have to say about this kid, he's fearless. The moment was not too big for him. He came in, recognized what his team needed, and he delivered.
Now, this was a close one when it started.
Yes.
It was really close. Michigan was in it for the first half of the first half, really. But then it kind of got away from them. Is there something Michigan could have done differently?
I don't think so. You know, they started the game getting Mo Wagner the basketball. He attacked. He was on the perimeter. He drove to the hoop, scored inside, knocked down a 3. But he got winded pretty quick in that first 4 minutes. And that was the question. Could they maintain scoring the basketball against the team that led the nation in scoring? And Michigan simply did not have the weapons when you think of what Villanova could throw at you. So they defended, they did the best they could, but just too many options, too many guys that could do different things to help Villanova get to the finish line.
Well, and that was a question as well, too. You saw Mo Wagner involved a lot early and often, but then did they shut him down, or did Michigan kind of stop getting him the ball? What really happened there?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. When Wagner came out and scored those first 8 points. Obviously, Jay Wright focused his defense on, we're going to close out to him. We're going to shut down those driving lines where he was attacking the other bigs and got to the basket. You take him away. Now it comes down to guys on the perimeter making outside shots. Matthews didn't make outside shots consistently. Abdul-Rahman, he stepped up and scored 20 points. But Duncan Robinson, a guy off the bench that you needed to have a good game if you're Michigan, making outside shots, he struggled. So when you took the head of the snake away from Michigan, no one else was able to step up and score the ball consistently enough to keep up with the weapons that Villanova had.
And as you mentioned, Villanova had a lot of weapons.
Yes.
The Wildcats, they got it done on the court. Villanova has clearly found the right way to win. Perhaps the biggest story today is Jay Wright, college basketball's George Clooney. Not only does he have an elite suit game, but he's putting together a pretty impressive resume. Now, where does he stack up against the greatest coaches of all time? Well, if he keeps going at this rate, he may have a claim. Wright has joined Billy Donovan and Mike Krzyzewski as the only coaches in the modern tournament era to win 2 championships in 3 years. He's 27-13 in the NCAA tournament with 3 Final Four appearances. In his 17 seasons with the Wildcats, he's led them to victory in 71.9% of their games. Now, Villanova's won 165 games over the past 5 years. That ties an all-time record. And Nova has 5 30-win seasons under Wright, a benchmark the program had never previously reached. The 2-time Naismith Coach of the Year is only 56 years old. He's got a lot of time left on his coaching shelf life. And as the torch passes from the prior generation of greats like Coach K, Wright could very well become the next face of the sport. Now, of course, Wright's also done it without recruiting a bevy of future NBA stars. Jalen Brunson, one of the rare McDonald's All-Americans to commit to Nova, told us after the game that his coach likes it that way.
I just think that Coach Wright tries to recruit guys who I think want to be in college. He finds the right players with the right character, who really want to be a part of this family, this tradition. And it's not easy. It's not for everybody, but it's just so special to be a part of because you know what you're going through. You know what the past players went through. And it's just so cool to be a part of. And I just think that Coach obviously wants. I think Coach really does want one of them guys. And I don't think he's not trying to get them. I just think we just find guys who really just want to be a part of this tradition.
So as with players who have success at this level, coaches who dominate in the collegiate level, it's a natural conversation like, should he go pro? And would Jay Wright's style translate to the NBA if he did?
Yes, he's a great communicator. Guys want to play for him. He plays an NBA style when you look at the offense, spreading guys out, 5 guys, interchangeable parts on both sides, offense and defense. But he's a teacher. At heart, he's a guy that likes to teach, likes to help guys get better, fulfill their goals in the classroom as student athletes, on the court. I think he's perfect for college basketball. He's great for college basketball. He's doing it redshirting players. 5 of their players that played last night had to redshirt at some point. And you see the growth in their careers. He's turning out pros as well. Kyle Lowry's doing pretty good for the Raptors. But they're a program now. You win 2 national championships in 3 years. We're not just talking about a team. We're talking about Villanova as a blue blood and a program. The faces may change, but the culture, the expectations remain the same because he has put together a total team program, and they've had great success.
I like that he doesn't try to put his talent into some sort of rigid system. He lets them play freely out there, and therefore some of them can up their pro prospects just like he might be able to. Let's go through some of the pro prospects from last night, starting with Villanova. To me, the interesting question is with DiVincenzo. Donte DiVincenzo, of course, lit it up. Should he go pro now, or should he go back to school to be the man for a year?
Well, conventional wisdom says when you're the most outstanding player, you're as hot as you're going to be, it's time to go. But I think he needs to come back to school. Again, you don't want just one sample size. He had a great year. His teammates said it. He scored 30 points this year in a game before. Big E 6 Man of the Year. But I think seeing him run a team. When Brunson was out, he became the point guard. Be that all year. Be a guy that can do this consistently and lead your team again to 30-plus wins, possibly another national championship, because you look at the guys before him. Brunson was a role player the last time Villanova won a championship. Mikal Bridges was a role player. These guys are now going to be, Mikal Bridges is going to be a lottery pick, a perfect 3-and-D player for the NBA, and Brunson's a guy with his skill set. Mentally, he is going to play for a long time in the NBA.
So, yeah, you mentioned Brunson. I mean, we've got him at 29 in our latest mock draft. You think that's a fair place for him to go?
I think it is. I think he's going to be a steal. Is he going to be a guy that can be a starting point guard right away? No, but he's a guy that you can count on to be a solid backup that plays 14 to 15 years in the league, that you know night in, night out can run your ball club, no maintenance, total team player, the ultimate pro as his dad was.
Yeah, Brunson to me strikes me as a backup, and
yes,
DiVincenzo maybe
backup.
a combo guard at the NBA level. The guy a lot of people are talking about is Bridges. He's ranked number 9 on our big board, which would be the Knicks right now. What do you think of Bridges in the pros?
Well, he's a lottery pick. Again, you see his development, his growth, consistent outside shooter this year. He's the perfect, as I said, 3-and-D guy, a guy that can make outside shots, super athletic. We saw some of his highlights earlier this year at the Garden, going down the middle, dunking on 4 defenders, but he can also strap up and defend on the opposite end as well. He worked, he got better. He's a guy that the NBA is going to love because he can play both sides of the ball, great size to be that interchangeable part.
All right, now that this college basketball season is officially over, naturally it's time to look ahead to next year's tournament.
Already, right?
Already. I mean, we're really filling out our brackets already, but there's a lot of odds on, the odds out for this. Duke at 5-1, Villanova 8-1 to repeat, Kansas 8-1. You got Michigan down at 20-1 to win the tournament. Who is your favorite to win it next year?
Duke is bringing in a lot of talent. Anytime you can bring in the top 3 players in the country.
Right, 1, 2, 3, that's not been
and number
done
8 or 9, who's a true point guard, which Duke has really not had. When you think of Trey Jones, the younger brother of Tyus Jones, who led Duke in 2015 to a championship, Duke's going to be talented, but again, they're going to be young. Villanova has a lot of veteran players. Assuming that DiVincenzo comes back, they're going to be good. Kansas has a loaded class coming in, and you think of Azubuike inside. Let's just be happy that we're having players come back, another great crop of talent coming in for another excellent college basketball season. And the underdogs, the lower seeds, have shown us that they make the tournament special, and they're only going to get better. Nevada is returning everybody. Let's watch out for Nevada next year as well.
Duke hopes it's a really good one before those guys are done.
Absolutely.
Jason, appreciate all your analysis during this March Madness run. Despite some snowouts yesterday, baseball still underway. We now welcome in SI's MLB editor, Albert Chen. And Albert, the Dodgers, rough go of it to start. Kenley Jansen's already blown 2 saves. They've lost 3 games to division rivals. How worried are you about LA's slow start?
Panic in Tinseltown, and it's not even been a week. I love it. I mean, I'm not that concerned about the Dodgers. I mean, if you look at Jansen's blown saves, gave up a home run to Joe Panic, and then 2 walks to 2 really good hitters, Paul Goldschmidt and A.J. Pollock, and then another home run. If anything, I look at the Dodgers and look at their first few games over the weekend. Clayton Kershaw looked in midseason form. Kenta Maeda looked really good. And then Rich Hill went out and pitched a shutout. I think it's exasperated a little bit with the other super teams in baseball having incredible starts. The Astros, looking like they're going to score, a ridiculous amount of wins, and the Nationals looking like they're going to go undefeated this season. So the Dodgers, the expectations are very high. Not concerned at all. I think the Dodgers are going to be absolutely fine.
What about the Cubs, though? They're under 500. They've been struggling against subpar teams, the Marlins and the Reds, and Chicago has set the record for the most strikeouts by any NL team through its first 5 games with 58 whiffs. What's going on in Chicago?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting contrast because both these teams we kind of penciled in as super teams. The Cubs, I'm a little more concerned about just because, I think there are a little more unknowns there. We have to remind ourselves, and I was reminded myself of this over the weekend, the Cubs are still a young team. It seems like they've been around for a long time. The strikeouts are a factor of, look, you've got guys like Ian Happ, Javier Baez, even Chris Bryant. I mean, this is a very young team that's going to strike out a lot. That's been their mentality. It's going to come down at the end of the day to starting pitching. And I still like their pitching, but you wondered if they kind of regret not re-signing Jake Arrieta and making some other moves possibly. The Cubs, a little more concerned, But look, we're only a handful of games
Right.
into the season at this
Right.
point.
So a little bit early, but perhaps they're not meeting their expectations. But opening day has come and gone. Is there a team that's impressed you that you didn't really see coming?
Well, there were 2 and 4-0 teams. The Nationals, not a surprise. The Pirates, that's a bit of a surprise there. And you know, as you watch the Pirates go 4-0 and go undefeated early on in the season, you're kind of reminded this is an organization that knows what it's doing. And I thought this was a last place team, clearly a tanking organization. They traded away Andrew McCutchen, but you look at how they won their games, scored a lot of runs in the early going. Starting pitching was tremendous over the last 2 starts. Jameson Taillon is a breakout candidate. I think the Pirates are a very interesting team just because they're kind of on that cusp where are they tanking? Are they an actual NL wildcard contender? And this is a very well-run organization, and I think one of the few organizations in this age of super teams and tankers where they could be right in the middle, and this is a team that we could be talking about this
All right,
summer.
this story drives me crazy. The Twins got upset when Orioles catcher Chance Sisco dropped a bunt down the line when they were in the shift, to the point where afterwards their second baseman Brian Dozier said this: "I could have said something, but they have tremendous veteran leadership over there. I'm sure they'll address it and move forward." Address what, Albert? You're in the shift. They're taking advantage of it. It's called strategy.
I agree. It's great to have baseball back, but I did not miss these stupid unwritten rules
The
of
delicate
baseball, right?
geniuses
The
that
delicate
are
geniuses.
Why are
baseball
there
players.
so many unwritten rules in baseball? This makes, just write them down.
And let's point out, the Twins were ahead by a lot of runs. There was no no-hitter on the line here, and this all transpired. And if you look at how this inning played out, the Orioles actually kind of made a run, made things interesting, where Chance Sisco was just trying to make this a competitive ball game, and he did the job. I think Brian Dozier just feels like he doubled down later, like after another reporter asked him later what was going on, and I just feel like he, at this point, just feels like he needs to be that curmudgeonly, cranky veteran who needs to talk about the unwritten rules. I did not miss them at all during the offseason.
It's absurd. I mean, earlier
is
we were talking
absurd.
about college basketball. If you force somebody to their left and they take advantage of it, they're not allowed to do that? I mean, I don't understand the problem there. All right.
Robin's got a lot of takes on this. We've been talking about it all
Exactly,
morning.
yeah.
To a story that is more relevant long-term, probably for baseball, and that's Shohei Ohtani and his debut. Did you like what you saw from him, or do you write it off because it was kind of the A's there?
I loved what I saw. What are you talking about? I mean, this guy, he's coming from Japan, and he is the most scrutinized player in baseball, gets a hit in his first at-bat, and then goes and makes a start on Sunday and strikes out 6 hitters in 6 innings. I mean, what do you not love about this? I mean, it's almost a historic situation. Not since Babe Ruth, and it really is true, not since Babe Ruth have we seen a player like this. And he's coming from Japan. Flashes of brilliance really in his start, was really dominant. A ridiculous movement on a lot of his pitches on Sunday. And look, I mean, he doesn't have to be the ace of the Angels staff. He doesn't have to be spectacular right now. The Angels didn't pay a lot for him. So if he's out there and he's a 2 or 3 starter for the Angels, I think this is the best story in baseball.
It's the early story leader for best story in baseball, I would imagine, as the baseball season just underway. We'll talk to Albert Chen more as it rolls along.
UFC 223 is Saturday, April 7th, and we're pleased to be joined now by women's strawweight contender Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Oh my gosh, that's a tough one.
But it was
But it was
actually
good.
good.
It was
It was
good.
pretty good. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's a pleasure. I always come to. I always like to come here to Sports Illustrated.
This weekend, you take on Rose Namajunas for the strawweight championship. Rose shocked the world defeating you the last time you guys met. If you look back on that fight, are there any moments that you think, I made a mistake here, or this is what I look to look better at it this next time?
Oh, you know, I was such a dominant fighter, strawweight fighter in the UFC and champion. I defended my title for 5 times, so it means a lot to me, to the UFC, and to the MMA world. And the thing is, I was not a competitor that night, so I couldn't compete 100% with Rose Namajunas. I went through terrible weight cut, but you know, people are saying different things, that it's my excuse, but it's not. And I didn't think that I was going to something like this. I had to go night before the weigh-ins, and just my brain was frozen. I couldn't do anything, you know. And she hit precise. She knocked me down. But this time everything changed. I took care of my diet. Now I work with a new team. I'm more healthy, more strong, more fast, and no mistakes. So I'm taking my belt back.
Taking it back. You got that claim right now. I feel like, is this the most pressure you've felt heading into a championship bout?
No, there is no pressure on me. There is pressure on Rose. She's the champion now, and I respect her so much, even more than before our first fight. But I know who I am. Even after my loss on November 14 at the Garden, I feel strong, you know, physically and mentally even stronger than before. Like I said, I was not a competitor that night, but on April 7 at the Barclays Arena, I will be 100%.
I mean, you came in here this morning and you said, I want to get my baby back. And
Of course, that's my goal, that's my dream, and I'm hungry. This is what I was dreaming about for last few long months, but I stay positive, you know. It's a sport. I'm an athlete, I'm a fighter, I'm a UFC fighter, but it's part of my life, you know. I'm enjoying my life so much. I love my family, and it's only part. I'm about to write other piece of story, you know, beautiful story, and I'm happy about this loss. Showed me a lot, you know, who I am, and how beautiful and sometimes dark is the show business, you know, and I like it about, you know, I keep my eyes more open, I hear more, I put more attention on every single thing I'm doing in my life and my fighting career. I expect more from people who are working with me, for me, and I expect more from myself. And like I said, I'm not a nutritionist, but the knowledge I've got for the last 15 years, because this is how long I've been doing martial arts. I was a Muay Thai competitor before I became an MMA fighter, but I use my knowledge as well. So I keep my eyes more open.
Be sure to check out Sports Illustrated's YouTube page to view Joanna's interview in its entirety. Now, March Madness is over, but the most shining memory, I think, of this tournament is Sister Jean, and she's definitely got the attention of America and the Washington Generals. They've offered her the opportunity to be their team chaplain, saying, you know what, this gives us a shot to win. Does this challenge the Harlem Globetrotters here? Are they going to be the new winners?
Talk about the ultimate Cinderella. The
Right?
Washington Generals, Sister Jean going there. And if she is there, after a loss to the Globetrotters, maybe she could be the recipient of a Harlem Globetrotters slow motion high five.
That is, yeah, the ultimate slow-mo high five. I appreciate that. He had that quite long build-up there, too, where it was just like,
Why don't we take it out with a slow motion
you know, we
high
got to
five?
take
Yeah,
it
let's
out
do
with
it.
a slow-motion high five.
That'll do it for SI Now
That'll do it
today.
for us today.
We'll be back tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. In the meantime, check out SI Now Live on Twitter for the latest videos and updates. Again,